Imagine buying a $50 million state-of-the-art jet engine and then trying to just strap it to a wooden horse-drawn wagon.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Right, like you don't update the wheels, you don't reinforce the frame, you just bolt it on, light the afterburners, and pray.
That's definitely going to splinter.
Exactly. And that is exactly what the world's top executives are doing with artificial intelligence right now. Welcome to the deep dive. If you've been, wondering why your company's big AI rollout feels more like a chaotic science experiment than a productivity miracle, you are not alone.
No, you're really not. It's happening everywhere.
Today, we are diving into a massive problem, highlighted in a fascinating paper by Jonathan H. Westover, PhD. It's called The Hybrid Stack: Why HR Leaders Need a Multi-Lens Framework for AI-Driven Work Redesign.
Which is quite a mouthful, but a really crucial concept.
It really is. Our mission today is to just shortcut your way to understanding this crisis. Organizations are buying this incredibly futuristic technology, but they're managing their people using these outdated pre-digital frameworks.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because companies seem trapped between two dominant yet totally flawed ways of organizing people.
Right, the default settings.
Yeah, the old school role-based model and the trendy skills-based model. Why are both of these failing so spectacularly with AI?
Well, the failure stems from a fundamental mismatch in organizational architecture. Let's look at the traditional role-based model first. It's the classic organizational chart we've used for a century.
The boxes in line.
Exactly. You have a job title, a rigid list of responsibilities, and a defined chain of command. The benefit there is structural clarity. You always know exactly who is accountable.
Okay, but what's the catch?
The fatal flaw is rigidity. When an AI agent is introduced and, suddenly automates 40% of a person's daily work, that rigid box just shatters. The role-based model simply cannot adapt to the way AI actually operates because AI doesn't stay in its lane.
Right. It operates horizontally across different departments, completely ignoring those traditional silos.
Yeah, the AI doesn't care that marketing and sales are on different floors. It just processes the data end to end.
Exactly. And recognizing that extreme rigidity, many cutting-edge organizations have just overcorrected. They've sprinted in the exact opposite direction toward a skills-based model.
Which sounds great, right? Very modern.
In theory, it sounds beautifully agile. You dissolve the rigid job titles, and you break the workforce down into fluid capabilities. The company becomes a sort of internal freelance marketplace.
Where people just float between projects based on what skills are needed that day.
Yeah, exactly. But dissolving roles entirely creates a massive blind spot when it comes to structural coherence. Accountability just evaporates.
Oh, I see where this is going.
If a generative AI model hallucinates a critical error in a financial report, a loose, fluid network of project-based workers is going to do what? They're going to point fingers at each other.
Because if nobody has the specific job title of person who catches the AI's mistakes, well, nobody does it.
Precisely. So companies are basically trapped in a false choice. You either stick with a role-based structure that chokes the technology, or you adopt a skills-based free-for-all that destroys accountability.
That is such a wild paradox.
Yeah.
And we are seeing the cost of this false choice play out in real time in corporate environments. The data in this paper paints a pretty bleak picture.
It's staggering, honestly.
According to a 2023 Deloitte survey, 78% of HR executives are actively piloting AI, almost 8 out of 10. Yet only 23% have actually developed an enterprise-wide framework for how to redesign the work around those tools.
That gap is terrifying.
So if you're listening to this and you manage a team, this is where you need to pay attention. You can't just buy your team enterprise software licenses and walk away. That gap creates deep systemic failures. The paper outlines 3 specific patterns where this goes wrong. I'm assuming the most common mistake is that companies just buy an AI tool off the shelf and expect it to magically fix everything.
You'd think it's that straightforward, but the reality is a bit more insidious. The first flawed pattern is what Westover calls opportunistic automation.
Opportunistic automation.
Okay. This happens when a department head sees a shiny new tool with a great projected ROI, so they buy it to automate a single isolated task. Let's say it's data entry in the accounting department.
Okay, sounds good so far.
Well, they dramatically speed up that one task, but they fail to analyze the broader workflow.
So they process invoices like 10 times faster, but they haven't changed how the downstream analysts work.
Precisely. All they've accomplished is shifting the bottleneck. The downstream analysts are suddenly buried under a mountain of raw data they don't have the capacity to process.
Wow, so the company created localized efficiency, but the overall system didn't improve at all.
In fact, it might be worse because now everyone is stressed out.
You just move the traffic jam to the next exit.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the second flawed pattern?
The second is the skills overlay. And this is a massive trap right now. Organizations spend millions on training, say, putting every single employee through an AI prompt engineering boot camp.
Right, upskilling.
But they leave the actual organizational chart, the reporting lines, and the daily workflow processes completely untouched. They're attempting to layer futuristic skills over an antiquated operational structure.
This sounds exactly like putting a state-of-the-art jet engine on a wooden, horse-drawn carriage without redesigning the wheels or the steering. You're going to crash. You can teach the driver all the aerodynamics you want, but if the vehicle is still made of wood, it's going to splinter the moment they hit the throttle.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that analogy explains exactly why AI implementation failures are so common right now. And that brings us to the third pattern: structural reorganization.
Let me guess. Lots of reshuffling.
It's almost purely cosmetic reshuffling. Leadership invents impressive-sounding new titles like an AI ethicist or director of automation synergy.
Oh, I've seen those on LinkedIn.
Right. And they draw a new org chart to show shareholders how innovative they are. But if you walk down to the floor and look at how the actual daily work is being done, nothing has changed. The fundamental workflows are exactly the same as they were 5 years ago.
So companies are basically duct taping this technology onto broken systems.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the hard numbers on what that actually costs, because this is where the theory hits the bottom line.
The numbers are really eye-opening.
Yeah, research by Asimoglu and Restrepo analyzed firms adopting robotics. Firms that just drop the robots into their existing setup without redesigning the human workforce saw an 8 to 10% gain in productivity, which, isn't terrible.
No, but it's not the full potential.
Exactly, because the firms that intentionally redesigned the work alongside the new technology, they saw an 18 to 22% gain. And McKinsey found the exact same leap in professional services.
Right. Without redesign, it was like 12 to 15%. With it, 25 to 30%.
You are literally leaving half of your potential productivity on the table. But I have to push back here for a second, because there's a paradox in the source material.
Okay, what is it?
AI is marketed as the ultimate cure for drudgery. Wait, isn't AI supposed to eliminate all our mundane work? Why does the source material say this piecemeal approach is causing massive anxiety for employees, from warehouse workers to lawyers?
Because automation without intentional work redesign introduces a massive amount of psychological friction. When you change the tools but not the system, the humans are the ones left to absorb the shock.
That makes sense.
Let's look at the layers of that human toll. First, there's intense skills anxiety. Consider a mid-career radiologist. They've spent 20 years meticulously honing their physical capability to read and interpret subtle variations in medical scans.
It's their entire professional identity.
Exactly. Suddenly, an AI diagnostic tool is rolled out. The hospital administration tells everyone they now need digital interpretive skills. That doctor isn't relieved. They are terrified. They fear that younger, digitally native colleagues are going to replace them. The tool meant to help them becomes an existential threat.
Even though the AI can't actually do the job without a doctor in the loop?
But nobody has clarified what the doctor's new role in that loop actually looks like. Then you have fairness concerns, particularly for frontline and warehouse workers.
How does that play out?
Well, in highly automated logistics centers, the heavy physical lifting might be reduced by robotics, sure, but the workers are subjected to arbitrary, opaque, algorithmic monitoring.
Oh, like tracking their bathroom breaks and stuff.
Yes, the system is tracking their every movement, setting dynamic productivity targets, and evaluating them using criteria they can't access or even question.
It's like having an invisible boss who docks your pay but refuses to explain the performance metrics. I can completely see how that creates a sense of dread.
And that dread isn't confined to the warehouse floor. It reaches the absolute top of the corporate ladder, leading to team breakdown.
Give me an example.
Imagine a senior partner at a prestigious law firm. Junior associates begin using generative AI to draft complex legal briefs.
Okay, so the junior staff is way faster now.
Right, but the senior partner now faces a profound crisis of confidence. Do they thoroughly overcheck every single citation and argument, which completely negates the time saved by using the AI in the first place? Or do they undercheck the draft and risk missing a hallucinated legal precedent that could cost them their license?
Wow. Because the workflow wasn't redesigned to account for AI verification, the fundamental dynamic of trust within that team just collapses.
Exactly.
So the piecemeal approach doesn't just leave money on the table, it actively breaks the psychological safety of the workforce. So how do we actually fix this? If you're an executive or a manager listening, how do you stop the chaos?
You need a framework.
Right. The paper proposes a comprehensive solution called the hybrid stack framework. It's built on 5 complementary lenses. Let's look at how they naturally connect, starting with the broadest view: workflows.
Yes, lens 1, value creation.
This is about zooming out to analyze how value is actually created across a whole process. Anthem, the health insurance giant, provides a fantastic example of doing this right. Instead of just using AI to do their existing bad processes faster, they mapped out the entire end-to-end journey.
That mapping is the critical step that most companies just skip over. Anthem realized that their human claims processors were wasting vast amounts of cognitive energy just toggling between different legacy software systems.
Just to reconcile basic patient data, right?
Exactly. The process itself was broken, so they used AI to orchestrate and validate the data.
They send only the highly complex, messy claims to the human workers. And the result was a 41% increase in processing speed. But what I love is that the employees were actually happier because they finally got to do actual problem solving.
That is the power of zooming out to the workflow level. But once you fix the broader workflow, you inevitably have to zoom all the way in. That brings us to lens 2, tasks. This is about diagnosis.
So breaking the job down into smaller pieces.
Exactly. It's a mistake to think about AI replacing jobs. We need to think about shifting tasks, specifically routine versus non-routine tasks. The Cleveland Clinic navigated this beautifully.
What did they do?
They diagnosed a very specific point of friction. Doctors were spending 16% of their day on clinical documentation.
Staring at computer screens, typing notes while the patient is sitting right there.
Yes, a massive source of burnout. So they brought in an ambient AI clinical scribe. It securely listens to the conversation in the exam room and automatically drafts the clinical notes.
It's like we aren't replacing the head chef. We're just getting a machine to chop the onions so the chef can actually focus on tasting the soup.
I love that analogy.
But wait, if the AI writes the clinical notes, what is the doctor actually doing during that time they just got back?
That is the most profound insight of the task analysis. AI doesn't just eliminate human tasks. It creates entirely new human tasks.
Really? Like what?
Well, at the Cleveland Clinic, they couldn't just turn on the microphones and walk away. The doctors literally had to learn how to talk to the AI. They had to learn a new way of working. They added a pre-brief task, reviewing the AI summary before entering the room.
Okay.
During the exam, they learned to refine the AI's understanding by intentionally speaking physical observations out loud, and finally, a verify task to review the AI's final draft.
So they are intentionally designing these new human tasks to ensure safety, and doing that safely save 30% of documentation time.
That's incredible.
Okay, so we zoom out to fix the workflows, and we zoom in to redesign the specific tasks. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because who is actually doing the work, and how do they work together?
Right, the people side of the stack.
This brings us to lens 3. Skills. And this is all about mobility. Historically, when skills change, companies just do mass layoffs. But skills mapping can actually save jobs.
It absolutely can. Unilever is the gold standard for this.
Yeah, they map the capabilities of 45,000 employees across 38 different skill domains. Instead of firing their traditional retail merchandisers when e-commerce boomed, they looked at the data.
And they uncovered skills adjacencies. They realized those retail workers possessed core skills that translated incredibly well to e-commerce,
creating a completely fluid internal talent marketplace without destroying the company's structure. You just shift them over.
Exactly. But you can't just stop at individual skills because work is fundamentally collaborative, which leads to lens 4. Teams. This is about execution.
How people actually work together with the AI.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is how AI changes team dynamics and decision rights. Danske Bank provides a masterclass on this. They redesigned their loan underwriting process into a hub-and-spoke model.
Explain that hub-and-spoke setup for me.
Well, the junior analysts used AI to process all the standard, straightforward loans. That's the hub. The senior underwriters, rather than reviewing everything, were reorganized into specialized spoke teams.
So they only stepped in for the highly complex cases where the AI flagged uncertainty.
Exactly. And this created amazing peer learning loops. The senior and junior teams would regularly meet to calibrate their understanding of when to trust the algorithm and when to override it, the result. Throughput went up 37%, and credit losses actually dropped by 12%.
Okay, that is incredibly efficient. But with workflows shifting, tasks migrating, skills platforms shuffling people around, and dynamic hub-and-spoke teams, how does a company prevent total anarchy?
You need an anchor.
Right, someone has to be accountable. This leads to the final lens,
Sure.
structure.
Lens 5 is all about governance because
Mm,
ultimately, when an algorithm makes a mistake, someone has to be accountable.
right.
Philips Healthcare illustrates this perfectly. They created an enterprise-wide AI governance office that reports to both the tech and medical chiefs.
That sounds very official.
It is, but they took it further. They distributed specific clinical AI leads directly into the hospitals. These are practicing physicians whose specific mandate is to monitor how the other doctors are actually using the AI devices on the floor.
I want to challenge this, though. A governance office sounds great on paper. But if a manager uses an AI system to optimize a factory floor, and the AI's recommendation causes a massive quality defect, who gets in trouble? The machine or the manager?
That is the big question.
Right, like humans naturally get complacent when a machine is right 99% of the time.
That's why you have to look at Siemens. They are the perfect example of full integration. They used all 5 lenses simultaneously across their manufacturing facilities, but crucially, at the structure level, Siemens made it unequivocally clear. Human production managers retain total accountability.
Wow, really? So they can't blame the AI?
Nope. They cannot deflect blame by saying the algorithm decided. The AI is an advisory tool. By maintaining that strict human accountability, they force the managers to stay engaged.
And because Siemens gave them the right workflows, tasks, and teams to actually govern the AI, they yielded a massive 25 to 30% productivity jump and a 15 to 20% drop in defects.
It proves accountability doesn't slow down innovation.
But doing this 5-lens deep dive once is impressive, but AI is advancing by the month. Like, we just went from GPT 3.5 to GPT 4 in no time. So how do organizations make this a permanent capability?
They have to move from static to dynamic. Organizations need continuous redesign, powered by data infrastructures, workflow data, skills platforms, performance tracking.
You can't just renovate once and call it a day.
Exactly. And beneath all that data, the psychological contract between the employer and employee has to change. The old deal of loyalty for job security is dead.
Roles are just too fluid now.
Right. So the new deal must be centered on capability development. The company promises to invest in reskilling you, and you promise to continuously learn. Kaiser Permanente is a great example. They brought union representatives into the AI redesign committees from day one.
Oh, that's smart, giving them a voice early on.
Very smart. By focusing on giving workers a voice and transparently mapping out the transition support, Kaiser avoided the typical tech transition panic, and they maintained organizational trust.
So what does this all mean? Surviving the AI era isn't a technology adoption challenge. It is fundamentally a work redesign challenge. You cannot duct tape a futuristic tool onto a pre-digital organizational chart and expect magic.
It just won't work.
To actually see the gains, you have to look through all 5 lenses: workflows, tasks, skills, teams, and structure.
And this raises an important question, one that's really worth mulling over. If organizations successfully map all workflows, tasks, and skills to create perfect human-AI collaboration, what happens to the concept of entry-level work?
Oh, wow.
Right. If AI takes over the routine tasks that junior employees traditionally use to learn their industry, like those junior analysts at Danske Bank or the associates drafting legal documents, how does the next generation of experts ever build the foundational intuition required to actually govern and oversee the AI?
That is such a profound thought. How do you ever become the head chef if the machine never lets you chop the onions? It's a massive challenge. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning how your own work is designed, and whatever you do, do not strap a jet engine to a wooden carriage. We'll see you next time.